Hey everybody, thank you for watching this episode of Just Open It, the YouTube series in which I open recently acquired toys. My name is Russ, thank you very much for watching. If you're a fan of action figures or toy collecting or pop culture in general, please consider subscribing to my channel, Karaoke Fanboy TV. Every week I'll be opening a recently acquired toy, whether it's something new off of the pegs at a Target or Walmart, or something vintage that I found at an antique shop or thrift store. Today I'm opening something that kind of falls in between those two categories of new and vintage, as it's an anniversary re-release of Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Toy collectors are very familiar with this line of Playmates toys. I think we were all swept away by these action figures in the late 80s. I very vividly remember first collecting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My family had just moved from Connecticut to Phoenix, and all of my action figures, from DC Comics Superpowers to Marvel's Secret Wars to, of course, my many Masters of the Universe action figures, vehicles, and playsets, they all made the Odyssey with my family from one side of the country to here, the Southwest. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the first action figure line I began collecting here in Phoenix, and it was kind of an initiation to a new stage in my life, adding these characters to my regular roster of heroes. They were so new and different from anything I had ever collected before, and I had very little knowledge of their ties to comics, at least not until a few years later when I borrowed a friend's first comics reproduction, I believe, of the first few issues of Eastman and Laird's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book, and it opened my mind. It totally introduced me to the black and white comic book boom that was kind of just ending, and in its wake kind of gave way to Image Comics and that revolution of comic books in the 90s. But boy, were Teenage, and again, Ninja Turtles kind of a staple in that movement, as Eastman and Laird retained ownership of these characters and directed them either together or individually for quite some time. Even now, as Kevin Eastman edits and co-writes IDW's take on TMNT. But anyway, I absolutely love these toys. They represent a lot of great things to me, good memories and fun aspects of pop culture and comic book history. And I'm excited to open Michelangelo, who I purchased at a Walmart because I've lost my original Michelangelo over the years. I don't know where he's gone. I have all of his weapons, and I have different variations, of course, of Michelangelo. I have Surfing Mikey back here, and I think I have the Michelangelo where you twist a knob on his side and his wrist spins with a nunchuck or something. So when I saw this re-release, I thought, well, why not purchase Michelangelo to replace an original version for my collection and to open him here on Just Open It. So I'm going to do that now and see if this opening elicits the nostalgia that just seeing this packaging evokes. Like so many other kids, I was absolutely enraptured by this comic strip origin on the back of their package, of course now with the Nickelodeon logo, to show where their ownership lies. But that original art was so crude and cool. I looked at it and thought, one, this is something I can draw now as an 8-year-old, but two, I could never hope to have this kind of originality and imagination. It was this kind of dual feeling of, I can do this and I can never do this. And there's been some rearrangement here, as these profile cards used to be kind of down here, right? And instead you'd have the bad guys here. So you had these original 4, and I think Splinter and April were a part of the first wave, and then Krang, Shredder, a foot soldier. Am I getting that right? Krang, Shredder, a foot soldier, Bebop, Rocksteady. That's 5. I don't recall that many bad guys here. I feel like it was 6 and 4. Whatever the case, original fans of Ninja Turtles, comment below. Let me know where I'm going wrong there, or if I am. But I'm so excited to open this and to see if it is, again, just evokes those feelings. So I'm going to dive right in here with no preciousness to the packaging, because these guys have been re-released so many times that this card art has become It's iconic. It's available anywhere online to view. So as precious as I hold it, I have no problem destroying it to get to the figure beneath. It's also pretty cool. Michelangelo, I believe, was the first figure that Playmates designed. And when I say Playmates, I may also be referring to Werner Studios, who did a lot of sculpting for not just Playmates, but other action figure companies and lines. I really encourage you to follow them on Instagram, Werner Studios. I'll tag their account here in the description. But they're such a cool company, and their Instagram posts are so nostalgic to the sculpts and toys that we remember from my generation anyway. All right, so Michelangelo is open, removed from the bubble. You guys know I kind of like to, not too pungent, but there he is. I don't remember if the figures of old were rubber banded into the plastic like this, but of course most all action figures are now. Heaven forbid they jostle around a bit in the bubble, I suppose. You guys know this is one of my pet peeves, trying to figure this part out. Because if you're a kid, just ripping open this action figure in his bedroom, this part is arduous. You need like a pair of scissors, you gotta ask your parents' permission. Yeah, right, of course most kids probably just whip out the knife they always carry in their pocket nowadays and tear right into this thing. But they burn the bands off with their proficiency with and for fire. Okay, here we go. Removed. Removed. And one of the great aspects of these figures were their weapons. So I'm going to cover that first because they came on this like crude weapons rack. The Turtles had such an aesthetic. They were underground in the sewer. You know, this looks like it's got a spirit of ancient ninja culture, for lack of a better description, to it. The wood texture of the frame upon which you could hang all of these weapons. So cool. This in and of itself to me is almost a work of art. Just the way you had to detach the weapons, and still the frame upon which those weapons were attached was itself an accessory. Very cool, and just a next level thing from what Masters of the Universe, for example, had to offer. Okay, so now I'm looking at Michelangelo, and I'm finding his plastic to be very rubbery to the touch. Now, of course, if I know my history of these figures, and there are some collectors that really, really do, but the very first wave, like the first release of the first wave, had like rubber heads, right? Soft heads, collectors I believe call them. And you can kind of collapse like the turtle's snout into his into his head and stuff. So you can determine the literal release date of these figures, especially these figures in the early versions of them, by that softness. And so this has a little rubbery feel, but it's very firm. But I find that to be similar in the arms and legs as well. And it's a little disconcerting. I don't remember if that was the case with the first wave of these, but I do love Michelangelo. Not my favorite Ninja Turtle, to be honest. Raphael is. But I love this character. I love this figure for a few reasons. One, we know it was the first that was sculpted. So his hands have this kind of put him up, you know, let's duke it out kind of posture to them that I really like. And if I remember, I believe these were the first figures I ever owned that had something beyond the 5 points of articulation, the neck, the shoulders, the legs. Here you have this forearm swivel, which offered awesome poses with their weapons. So I do find myself swept away by by the nostalgia of this. Of course, on the back too, it was cool that you could put his weapons here. I loved that Raphael had his sai up front, So that was a very cool additional feature. There he is. Now, I will try to detach his weapons as I have a vintage set intact. And I believe the colorization here, if that's the right word, I feel like this is a little lighter than the classic versions, though they've probably experienced a lot of different colors and molds, and things might happen with age. I mean, when you think about it, these figures are what, 35 years old? Maybe more, I'm not sure. But I mean, how old am I? I don't want to think about it too hard, I guess. So if I were a kid getting this version of Michelangelo for the first time in this wave, could I easily detach his nunchucks without any use of scissors or an X-Acto blade or anything like that, and immediately get to playing? So I'm just going to see. And I got to admit, it's pretty firm here. And then this was always an issue, right? We always feared breaking this. You would see the plastic start to lighten, and you would feel like this is about to break. So I'm trying to be careful about that. And there's a lot of, it's firm, it's on there. I mean, I've removed hands from action figures to replace with secondary hands, as you've seen in past videos, with much greater ease than this. And you would think these are weapons that should be readily available for play. And this is just so tough that, well, fortunately, I happen to have a pair of scissors right here. This is not a common feature on Just Open It, but I just absolutely coincidentally happen to have a pair of scissors here. So let's see, again, if I were a kid and I got my parents' permission, and I get the scissors out, could I easily snip these weapons free and get to playing? That's all I want to do here is start playing with these toys. There we go. Okay. Decent cuts, not perfect, but you can see there's a little tab left on that handle. I don't know if as a kid that would drive me nuts, or I just accept it and move on here. But you know, as an adult, there's an OCD element to this, where I'm like, that doesn't look like the perfect handle, you know. But I can obscure that with his grip, so just put that in his hand here, and there it is, Michelangelo. Nunchucks in hand. And I so vividly remember reading on the card that a nunchuck could apply, let's see if it still says it. Yes, it takes 8 pounds of pressure per square inch to break bone. The nunchucks generate 90. I so very vividly remember that detail, because I was like, whoa, that's a powerful weapon. So it's fun to see that that's intact here, that there isn't a parents group that's come out to protest that. But a little give here, a little wiggle, a little rubberiness. Not crazy about it, but you know, the figure is here, kind of a matte coloring on his shell. I don't remember it being so flat, matte black like that. But so be it. I mean, this is contemporary toy making, modern day toy making, so some things have probably been perfected. And some of the charm of these original action figures were their imperfections. So you kind of can't fault a new Michelangelo for not bearing the vulnerabilities of his original predecessor here. But there he is. I love it, and definitely will enjoy adding him to the shelf with his brothers, where he belongs. You know, I just want to say, if you're still watching this video, I still appreciate it that, as I mentioned, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles hold such a special place in the history of comics, and I really do believe that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird were the last great duo of comic book creators. I mean, you have Siegel and Schuster, of course, with the creation of Superman. You have Bob Kane and Bill Finger, and more so Bill Finger and Jerry Robinson, as we've learned in recent years, with the creation of Batman and Robin. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby with the creation of the entire Marvel Universe, of course with the help of Steve Ditko and some others. But there are these great duos of comic book creators in the history of comics. Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, of course. Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. You just have these great duos. And I think that Eastman and Laird are probably the last to introduce an original concept that stands to this day. A lot of single creators have offered characters that remain. Of course, Todd McFarlane with Spawn and Bill Englund with The Tick, and I can go on there. But when it comes to a duo of creators that we kind of picture in this collaboration in a studio of their own design, to me, it's Eastman and Laird that really ended that tradition successfully. I say ended in that we just may never see something like that again, where it's homespun, grassroots, beautifully executed from the beginning with so much heart, a youthful energy despite its somewhat mature context at the time, but evidenced by the fact that you can recreate these characters every few years and appeal to a new generation. So hats off to Playmates Toys for bringing these characters into our homes for so many years, and for continuing to celebrate the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in toy aisles today. If you liked this video, again, please click that thumbs up, the bell notification, all that YouTube stuff, and tune in next time when I look at the pile of unopened action figures in my living room. I grab one and I tell myself, you know what? Just open it. I'll catch you next time. And cowabunga, dude!